It should be up any sec. Yep, we're live on Twitch. Live on YouTube. Wow, that was really smooth for once. I'll take it. All right, whenever you're ready.
All righty. I'm just making sure that I have things available to me over here. There we go. All right. Critical acclaim and BAFTA award-winning game. Still not enough to save the dev studio. Today on... Hello, and welcome to another episode of Press B to Cancel. Today I'm joined by Sick Jake. It's just the two of us. How you doing, sir?
There's a song there, but I don't know it. So I'm not going to make a joke about it. But I'm doing great for this Friday. Well, oh boy. Yeah, he knows one's all but slapping. Yeah.
No, just the two of us.
Oh.
I thought that's what you were talking about. Oh my gosh.
Okay. I'm terrible. Okay.
Not on the same page. Well then.
No.
That'll be great for a two-man topic. Sure.
We'll get through it. We always do. And at least this is a game that I think we both like for the most part. So this is always a good time.
For those of you watching and not listening, I know I look even more red than usual. I got sunburn this week. Just ignore it. Anyway, today we are talking about Hi-Fi Rush. And it is quite the subject, honestly. Do we want to just jump into it? How do we want to handle this today?
Well, I mean, let me just start off by saying that I have not beaten the game. This is one that I played originally when it got released. I played it on Game Pass, and then it was on sale. Steam Summer Sale is bad for me, so I picked it up there and I played through a portion of it. But I think this is one that you've pretty much thoroughly 100%ed, I think, at this point, or you've gone deep.
No, right? I did not 100% it.
No,
but I did play through a number of levels quite a few times. I tried to find all the collectibles at the very least.
Okay.
And I did some of the extra content that was tied to the plot.
Okay.
I didn't do the extra tower game or anything like that. I decided to move on from that. And I'll kind of explain that in a little bit as best I can for someone who hasn't touched that mode.
Right.
But
but I mean, it's good to talk about this game. Hi-Fi Rush it came out last year from Tango Gameworks, and I remember when it first launched, right? 2023, I think it was.
Yeah, end of January 2023 is when it launched.
Right. And I mean, I remember right when it first came out, the first impressions was the hell of a style and jamming music. It hits you right front and center with what it's all about. And I really dig the style of this game. So I know I want to do an episode on this before, even more so now, because part of this episode is also to talk about how, even though it did so well, the studio still got shut down this year, which is really disappointing.
Well, so there's a number of things I think linked to that. Let's first talk about the dev studio, Tango Gameworks. They're the studio responsible for The Evil Within, The Evil Within 2, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Hi-Fi Rush. So, Evil Within did well enough to garner a sequel, and Evil Within 2 was rated even higher than Evil Within. Ghostwire Tokyo had a decent reception as well. However, that game also did not sell well, as I understand it.
Right. It's interesting because this is the studio that was started by Shin Mikami, which viewers are into this kind of stuff. He's like the daddy of Resident Evil. He was the director of the original franchise. He's got a lot of roots with Capcom. He moved on to God Hand. He did Beautiful Joe, like a number of different things. I mean, he's also had his hands in founding Platinum Games and all these other things. I think he was part of Clover back in the day as well. So he's definitely got some pedigree with Capcom, and I guess he started this studio, Tango Gameworks, and went independent, but was immediately bought by ZeniMax or Bethesda. I can never say that name.
Bethesda.
Bethesda. Okay.
It's named
So
after the city in Maryland.
yeah, so it's interesting because it's like an American studio that owns a Japanese game studio, but it's an American parent company, I guess, which is interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it seems like there's a number of contributing factors that really compounded on this. I know it's easy to just jump on the bandwagon and be like, there's the whole meme of Tango Gameworks got shut down, and then days later, Phil Spencer was saying, "Oh, we want to focus on making games that are critically acclaimed and award winning," and you got
It won.
Hi-Fi Rush that you just shut down their studio 2 days earlier, and that game, it scored 90s for the most part. It was nominated for dozens of awards, won at least 5 that I came across, maybe
Yeah.
6.
The,
Um,
the
and
big
one
one
of
for
them
me
was a
was it won the
BAFTA.
BAFTA for animation. Like, I mean, the BAFTAs are a
Yeah.
pretty big deal when it comes to media awards. I mean, film and TV, sure, but the game section of the BAFTAs has been pretty prestigious, and it's not as popular, I guess, to look at for fans like the Game Awards are that Jeff Keighley does. But I always
Yeah.
love watching the BAFTAs and seeing who wins. And yeah, they won. They took home best animation, and for good reason.
Yeah,
And they still
and
got shut down.
the animation in Hi-Fi Rush is spectacular.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
though, and especially how fluid it is between, the 3D cell shading to actual hand-drawn 2D animation at points and back and forth.
right.
Like, they do a great job of making it fairly seamless. And it really surprised me. And it's funny because, like, I noticed in the cutscenes, when it goes from gameplay to cutscene that's still using the 2D cell shading, they
Right.
drop the frame rate to match that of the 2D animation, so it looks hand drawn.
Yeah. Like I say this the most endearing and positive way possible, but when I first saw the opening scene, and for those watching YouTube, I'm showing it now, it reminds me of a Canadian cartoon show. In the 90s, we had a few Canadian animation studios, Nelvana and whatnot, making a good number of the 90s cartoons. And this is what it reminds me of, that style. Like, it's a lower frame rate, but very fluid and really animated characters. And that's what I got a real vibe of Saturday morning cartoons. I wish this was like an anime show or a cartoon or something. This could be a Netflix series, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like just the quality of the storytelling throughout the gameplay really just it feels like you're playing a cartoon, really. It's just so over the top and silly, and yeah, it might lean into a few tropes of anime and cartoons in general, but that's not to its detriment. Like, it handles
Yeah.
them well. It doesn't play them out. It doesn't overuse them. Instead, it's more about like character archetypes, really, in that regard.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, you got, the big guy who doesn't want to hurt a fly, right? He's a
Right.
pacifist. You got the main character who's kind of an oblivious, impulsive goofball. You got the first character he meets who's kind of a hothead, but she's like really driven to accomplish her goals. So like the
Right.
character archetypes are really, you've seen them before, but the writing for this game is great. Like, from villains, the protagonists, everybody, like, it's all really well written. I really appreciate it. And the voice actors nailed it.
Oh yeah, huge. The voice acting is definitely a highlight of this game, and I think this is because it was a Japanese game studio. They also had a Japanese cast as well, but it's nice to see that there's quality put in on both sides. Like, there's nothing spared when it comes to the voice acting in this game. Because I think of Shin Mikami's studio, I'm thinking Resident Evil, and I love Resident Evil, but there's some bad voice acting in Resident Evil and some Capcom games. But for this
Well,
one, all good.
um when you it's kind of hard to compare with Resident Evil 2 because, like, when you think of Resident Evil, the original Resident Evil, I mean, the
Right.
voice acting, like, all the acting in that was bad on purpose. It was supposed to be a B movie. But as you come
You
into the
think?
more recent Resident Evils, they're generally better acting. Like, there's still a few
Okay.
spots here and there, but
Right.
like Resident Evil 6, it had its moments where it was not the best acting and moments where it was decent and good, It just depends. Um, but I mean, they're also working with the writing they were given. This game was
Right.
really well written.
Yeah.
And again, going back to the awards, like, this game was nominated for if there's a sound or audio award from that you can think of, it was probably nominated for it if it classifies for video games. Um, Animation or visual design also nominated for a bunch of those. Won the BAFTA for animation, and it even was nominated for Game of the Year. Sometimes with a qualifier, action game
Right.
or Xbox game. But I mean, it had a few Game of the Year nominations, so like it was a good game. The downside to that is the game had almost no marketing budget.
Right.
And so there was one shot in the foot right there. The game also was dropped day one on Game Pass. So people were like, well, I'll just play it here instead of buy it. But I mean, if there's no
Yeah.
marketing budget behind it, you're not going to expect a whole lot of like the conversion from Game Pass players to buyers, probably not that big. And
Yeah.
it's not gonna be a title if you drop it on day 1 with no marketing, it's not gonna be a title that's gonna surge Game Pass subscriptions either. So it was
Yeah, this was one of those. I mean, from what I saw, it was 2 million downloads, I guess, but that also includes
no,
a number of Game Pass players, and they don't distinguish from the
right.
two is
So the term they used was players. By March,
players.
it
Okay,
had 2 million players. By August of 2023, it had 3 million players.
so
Um,
3 million
However,
still is pretty good for this kind of game, but
that's a lot of
yeah,
players. However, if the majority of them are on Game Pass, how many of them are beating the first boss and sticking with
right,
the game? I
yeah,
mean, I've downloaded Game Pass games and then tried them and was like, this isn't for me. Which that's going to be the case with a game like this where it had no marketing. So, like, until I got this game in the Humble Bundle last month, because that's how I got it, I'm sure a good chunk of the sales that have happened recently are through that, um, or just on sale during the summer sales on the various platforms. And after Tango went under, people wanted to try and support it, but I don't think it's gonna that's not gonna retroactively do anything, unfortunately.
right.
But um I didn't know what type of game it was. Like I knew there was rhythm involved in the combat, but I thought it was like a JRPG with rhythm combat.
Oh no, yeah, no, this
I
is a
did not
full on
know that
action
this was
game.
a beat 'em up. I didn't know it was an
Yeah,
action game. So once I started playing it, I was like, well, this is not what I expected. However, it was definitely an enjoyable surprise, right? Like
right.
going into it, I knew I was all in on the style. And like initially, and I know I think it came out along the same time or was revealed around the same time as Bomb Rush Cyberpunk
That was the
and
Grind
Jet
inspired
Set Radio
game,
style. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
And this one also kind of gives Jet Set Radio style vibes to it. A
for
lot more
sure.
detailed, not the super chunky, thick lines and everything. But it also very much reminds me of an anime called, if you've never heard it pronounced, you probably know it as FLCL or Fulikuli or Furikuri,
Okay,
depending on how you're familiar with it. So, like, if you've heard of it by one of those three names, you've heard of the anime. But like the
right.
music and the feel of the world, very much Furikuri inspired to me. Like I got a
Yeah,
lot of that, and I tried to convince my brother to get it by throwing that out there because he loves Furikuri, and
it's it's definitely got a style to it. Like the idea of no marketing budget is interesting because I think, from what I understand, the studio was trying to pivot away from survivor horror as a stereotype for their studio because they've done so much of it, and a lot of people at that studio have that experience. So they kind
Mhm.
of wanted to do this one in development in secret to a degree, because I think that the
Yeah,
quote I saw was they're worried that fans might expect too much or think it was something it wasn't. So I think they kind of deliberately kept this one under wraps to kind of shadow drop it, but they definitely could have done more to push it out there. Because like most of the reviews are fairly positive, and there are a couple of neat, like, small marks against it, which we can talk about later. But for the most part, it was well received by everybody, and I wish they pushed it more. But I think Microsoft, they owned the setup at this point, and I think at that point they didn't know what to do with some of the properties that were coming out, like whether it was going to PlayStation, whether it was going to Switch, or was it only be on PC, how they were going to juggle those. And by
mhm.
putting them on Game Pass, They had a lot of stuff they were trying to put on Game Pass quickly and say, look at the value we have in Game Pass, but they didn't really highlight anything, right? Like this came out, I think, at the same time when they were putting Doom and Quake and stuff on Game Pass at the same time. It was a weird flub by Microsoft. I don't think they knew the value of what they had.
This is definitely the type of game that needs a marketing budget so that you can show off what it is and
Yeah.
also explain to a degree what it is and get hype behind it. Because if it had a marketing budget, I think it would have been a lot more successful. And yeah, it was like a side project while they were working on Ghostwire Tokyo.
Right.
But after Ghostwire Tokyo came out, there was plenty of time between that they could have been like, "Hey, check this out." And like there was a reveal trailer, I think, at Xbox something 2 years ago,
Okay.
the Summer Games Fest stuff, but that was kind of it. It wasn't huge. And so it was it was either that or Bethesda. Either way, like I saw it and I was like, "Oh, that looks neat." But I didn't know what it was. Like, like I told
Right.
you up until a month and a half ago, I thought it was an RPG.
It's tough too to try and sell rhythm games, I think, to a degree, right? Because when you say it's a rhythm music game, you're going to automatically think Guitar Hero or something, right? Or you're
Yeah.
going to think like Crypt of the Necrodancer, and it's nothing like those. Like you said, it's a beat 'em up. There's also a heavy element of quick time events in this game, which
Yes.
has a stigma
And
to it that people don't like. So it's
it
tough to kind of say what it
does.
is, right? And not drive people
And
away.
in defense of the QuickTime events, usually QuickTime events are just kind of frustrating and out of nowhere and you don't expect them. In this, the QuickTime events are always somehow in tune with the music.
Yeah.
If it's a little QuickTime event where you just got to hit a couple of things to turn a power switch back on, okay, fine. It's just in beat with the music. But the QuickTime events during bosses are in line with the song. Like it's not
Right.
just there. It's, a good example is during the first boss, you've got 1 Million by 9 Inch Nails playing. And the beat that you're hitting the music, like the QuickTime notes at, is in line with the song so that it fits with it. And like even the cutscenes between phases are in line with the song. Like
Right.
it's cool how they did it instead of just being and like, oh, here's a QuickTime event. No, it's all in the beat with the music and sometimes with the song specifically. And I thought that was really cool. Like between phases with this boss when he's whipping out the cannons are coming out at the drum beats. Da, 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 da,
Right.
da, 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 da. And that's so cool to me how they did that. And they do that
Yeah.
kind of thing throughout the whole game, and it's really cool.
Like even
And
between the
yeah,
combat sequences, right? Like between combat sequences where you're free to walk around a little bit, everything in the environment is still moving to that drum beat, right? It's that metronome. I
yeah,
mean, there's a metronome feature in the game. You don't really need it when the lights are going in sync with the music or the trees are bopping with the music, right?
yeah.
Everything is in time
You
and
see everything in the
it's
background of
interesting.
this video with us just pop, pop,
Yeah.
pop, up and down. And that's in time with the music. Like every single song in the game is at the same beat. And it doesn't hurt it, and the songs don't sound identical.
Right.
They don't sound extraordinarily different from one another either, but they don't sound like the same song from stage to stage.
Right.
And it is really cool to just see the world around you just constantly at that beat of the metronome too. And yeah, you could, like you said, you can activate the little metronome on the bottom that shows you what the timer is, but you've also got the little cat head floating around with him, 808,
Right.
that's constantly lighting up with the beat of the music. Every
Right.
step he takes is with the beat of the music. I mean, it's really obvious what the beat is.
Like the health bar even as well. And just if you're in combat and you're actively attacking things, you just kind of get in the groove, especially with light attacks. It is boom, 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 boom. Like it
Yeah.
feels pretty natural to do the light attacks. The heavier attacks I had a little bit of a struggle with, but I never felt like I was overwhelmed with the timing. Because even if you mess up the timing a little bit, it's not the end of the world. It still plays fine. Like you don't have to be exactly in tune with the beat every single attack string. So it was generous anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't even bother listening to what the music was for the unlicensed tracks if you go into like streamer mode. like I said, the first boss is a Nine Inch Nails song. There's also another Nine Inch Nails song toward the end. You, the opening cutscene has Lonely Boy by the Black Keys playing. So there's a fair amount of licensed music in this. And if you turn on streamer mode, it trades that out for another song that's original. I didn't even check those out, but I would imagine they're also good.
Yeah, they are pretty solid. I think they got the band's called the Glass Pyramids, and they're the ones hired by the studio to do the original music. And yeah, they have replacements that are not sound alikes to the licensed musics, but they have a similar beat, so it fits. And they're fine.
Mhm.
I have no issue. There's still lyrics to a lot of those songs. They're still pretty groovy. Even if it didn't have the licensed soundtrack, I think it would have been just fine on its own.
Yeah.
It's nice to have Nine Inch Nails in the first boss fight. That's really damn cool, but I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, completely agree. Like the first boss is a Nine Inch Nail. I'm not a huge Nine Inch Nails fan. Like I don't dislike them, but I also don't go out of my way to consume their music.
Right.
But hearing that song, it's a song I've never heard by Nine Inch Nails before. But going into it, I was like, it at the beginning of every new track, you get the little music video stamp at the bottom left that says like
Yeah.
who the music is by, the name of the song, who owns the music, all that stuff. Like it's all down there, which is
Yeah.
kind of cool. It makes it feel like you're playing one big music video.
Well, they even call the stages tracks in this game, right? You're playing 12
Yeah.
tracks, and it just every track is basically an extended music video. I dig the vibe. I like what they did with that. I thought it was pretty cool.
And then you get into like the idea behind who this main character is, right? Like you don't get much backstory on him at all. The game opens, he's got his arm in a sling. You have no idea what's up with him. And he makes it kind of clear he's super into music. He wants to be a rock star. And then he's going into this Project Armstrong thing. And I'm just gonna kind of touch on the opening story here, so don't worry too much about spoilers, people. But I'm gonna explain a little bit of what's happening so that if anybody is mildly interested, we've piqued your interest. This might go a little further for you. Um, he ends up getting his arm replaced with a robotic arm, and in the process, his little iPod, Zune, whatever you want to call it, his little music device, ends up falling from where it was by a few stupid mishaps and lands on him just before he gets his robotic arm. And so that also sort of becomes implanted into his body with the arm. And now he's got, I think, what he described magical robotic music powers. I think that was the term he used.
Well, and throughout the story, they cut to the iPod in his chest, basically. Like think like Iron Man, but it's an iPod, and that's what's doing the beat, the constant beat to the game, right? The rhythm. So it fits.
But I mean, it's a really fun idea that's clearly over the top, but the whole game is over the top, right? And they don't shy away from that sort of thing. You get just every single character in this game is a big personality. You got the first boss, not the first boss, but the first like corporate level executive with the company that you fight. She's like basically over the top the way WWE is. That's her persona. She's just loud and mean and wants to smash things, right? And it's fun the way they portray her.
It really reminds me of Scott Pilgrim and how it's like the seven evil Lexes. It's like that, but they're corporate goons, right? And yeah, she's got the wrestler vibe, very buff, the wrestling belt that says boss. She's got gloves on. Like there's a scene with her later on where she's like, all right, the gloves are coming off. And you're like, okay, sure. But when she takes the gloves off, literally she has mecha hands. So
yeah, she's got giant mechanical hands.
Yeah. Because I guess the overall story with this world is like it's the future. Prosthetics are a big thing. And yeah, everybody's getting limbs replaced with robot limbs, I guess. And it's neat how they handle it. And I don't necessarily need a background story of all the characters. Like Chai can be the nameless or the background-less protagonist, and it works in this story. But you do get background on the other characters in the story, and that's I think is probably better, right? Like the first lady you meet who owns 808, the cat, Peppermint, right? You get her backstory throughout the story, and it works, and that's the focus, and you're kind of the protagonist, and I like that. That's definitely the game way of doing a story.
it's really cool how they handle it, because they sort of imply that, Chai is always looking for shortcuts to get from, A to C instead of having to go A, B, C. But other than that, we don't get a whole lot of backstory on him. He's just
Right.
impulsive, likes to have fun. That's that. Otherwise he is that sort of, backgroundless hero, which works to help the player just feel like you're embodying Chai and going through the game. And then it's so dumb. It took me too long to realize that a bunch of the characters, if not all of the characters, have food names.
Yeah, at first I thought they were named after tea because you have chai, tea, of course, peppermint tea, but then the other characters are not tea. But you're right; they're almost all food, right? I think.
Yeah, there's macaron, there's
Right.
cinnamon,
Cinnamon, the robot, CMN. Yeah, that fits.
CNMN, and he's called
Yeah,
Cinnamon. You got
that's good.
kale. You got
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That's pretty cute. That's a very Dragon Ball Z type of thing, right? Just name things after
yeah,
food.
and it's not all the characters, because you've got like Roxanne Vandelay. And I will say, the first time I started playing through this and they were like Vandelay Technologies, all I could think of was Seinfeld, Vandelay Industries.
Yeah, it makes you wonder where they pulled some of these names from and how much of them references. I mean, last week Char was telling us that when you mentioned 808 the
The
cat,
cat, 808.
and 9 Inch Nails is the first track and a later track. He's like, really? 9 Inch Nails, 808? And we're like, what's up? And it's like, well, 9 Inch Nails is pretty famous for using a Roland 808 drum machine in his music. So they named the cat after the drum machine. And this game, that's totally rad. I would not have gotten that reference if not for Char telling us.
Yeah. But I mean, some of them are just a little more like, all their names have a little bit of cheese to them in some way or another, like Rekka.
Right.
She literally just wrecks things, right?
Wrecks things. The one thing that was kind of annoying for me though was the stupid tutorial fridge, right? Like right from the
Smidge.
get-go. Smidge, yeah, he's a smart fridge. He's a smidge. I found that kind of stupid. And there's a few times where I ducked him. I didn't want to talk to him because I figure I can figure it out. But then there's one section where he literally moves to block you and forces you to talk to him. And he guilt trips you for not talking to him about the tutorial parts. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah,
I
I'll
will
remember
say,
Smidge.
For all the things I love about this game, it's a little bit heavy-handed with tutorials in like the first 2 levels.
Yeah.
A few of them you can probably skip. I didn't skip any of them, but a few of them are also like, they're just there and you have to deal with them. Like one of them literally, and it's funny how they handle them, because the first time you do it, you see that you're taken to like an alternate tutorial room in the middle of the
Right.
story, and Chai is just like beating things up, and he's got this announcer. He's doing all this on a stage with an audience that's just cheering him on, and he's like basically fantasizing about being a rock star and kicking ass. And then the second time that happens, after you've met Peppermint, uh, he comes back out of it, and you hear Peppermint going, "Hey, did you just black out for a minute?" And he's like, "Don't worry about that. I got an idea." Like,
Yeah, it's a neat way of doing it. And I understand why they have to have the tutorials because it is a rhythm game and it's central to the combat. And they want to make sure that
yeah,
you
and
grasp the combos, right?
the mechanics are a bit unusual. So I
Right.
dealt with it because I didn't like it. It was something that's different. It's not. It's literally not just, beat them up, use the combos as fast as you can. It's everything has to be
Right.
timed, a little bit planned, and you also have to react to what's going on around you with parries and dodges, and you can counterattack, which it took me entirely too long to figure that out. Um,
You can counterattack? I didn't know that.
You can counterattack. I didn't figure that
Okay.
out until one of the Spectra
Okay.
rooms after I'd completed the game and was going back, and it was like, use this. And I was like, how do I do that? I didn't even know that was a thing. So
Okay.
I don't know if I just tuned out of some of the tutorials and didn't really pay attention, or if I just missed it or what. Because after a time, like they just start throwing stuff on screen that you can skip through real quick. And I was like, I don't want to read all this, especially on my Steam Deck. The text is tiny. I don't want to struggle with that. So skip, skip, skip. Let's go on.
Like it's fine. I mean, because for me, it was like, oh, I can dodge. Okay, that makes sense for a game like this. And then, yeah, the different combos. Then you can mix the combos. And they have a tutorial for mixing the combos. A bit much, but at least there's humor with the dialogue and talking with the fridge and Peppermint giving you crap for blacking out. At least they try to make it fun, but would have been nice if you could just skip some of that. Especially, I imagine if you're playing this more than once, the second is probably not as fun as playing it the first time and having to go through all that.
No, well, I mean, if you're playing on the same file and going back and trying to find everything when you've already done it, it gives you the option to skip the tutorial.
Oh, okay,
Like,
good,
it'll take
good.
you to his little blackout stage room, and then before it does anything, it'll be like, "Do you wanna skip the tutorial?" And the first option that it's already highlighted, so you don't even have to go out of your way to pick it, is absolutely.
Okay, that's good then. That's fine.
So you can choose to play it if you want, but if you're just spamming the button to get through it, it'll just automatically skip the tutorial and keep going. So subsequent playthroughs, you can wander right by Smidge. He doesn't even respond or react. So I didn't even know about what you talked about.
So I'm curious then, what are the moves then? Because I didn't play as much as you did. So I know that you have light and heavy attacks, and there's different rhythm beats for those, right? Like
Yeah.
light attack is on the beat 1, 2, 3, 4, and then heavy attack is 1, 3, 5, right? It's delayed. There's
Yeah.
dodge. I think there's a dash, I think, and special, but what else is there move wise in this
The
game?
dash is the dodge.
Okay. Because you can do that midair,
So
right?
yeah. And then there's
Okay.
parry, which is literally like putting your weapon up in the way to absorb the hit, not take damage.
Okay.
Um, which I used parry a lot going through the game, but I didn't realize you could. There are two types of counterattacks. There's parry counters and there's dodge counters. So if you time
Right.
the attack, like you parry on the next beat, you can bring in one of your buddies to attack as long as they're
Oh,
not on
okay.
cooldown, and it doesn't eat the cooldown, and they do more damage than they would if you just pulled them in.
Right.
Like
So you're
with
rewarded for
Macarone's
timing it
parry,
properly. Right.
right. So like with Macarone's parry counter, he'll come in and smash things twice instead of once.
Okay.
Um, and so what is one of the other characters has a wind move that sort of it tires people out. Well, when she counters, it sort of throws them up in the air, so it stuns them longer.
Okay.
Um, with Peppermints, she goes wilder with the guns and gets more hits in quicker. So that's the sort of thing that's happening in this game, right? But then the dodge counters are the same thing. If you time the dodge, it's a different counterattack from these characters, but it's also a counterattack in the same way.
Okay.
And you'll see,
That sounds
like,
pretty
I didn't
rad.
even realize it was happening when I was playing, but you do see like little colorful circles happen after you dodge or parry. And if you
Right.
time the summon with that, because that's what you do is you summon in your buddies. They're not just like you can't just summon them whenever, but they're basically not with you. You summon them in, they appear, do their thing, and go. Well, with the
Right.
counterattacks, yeah, you time it with that, and then they jump in and smash things and be on their way.
Yeah,
But
and that's
you
that's
can
the game where
also,
it's like an interesting rhythm combat, right? Like yes, it's a beat 'em up, but you don't just go and blindly mash buttons. Although I played on easy and I was doing a lot of button mashing, but you are
uh,
definitely rewarded for getting the timing right on those attacks.
yeah, it's funny because I thought I was playing okay my first time through on normal, and was consistently getting like A's at the end of a stage, and
Right.
then on hard mode because I had a better idea of how to play the game, and you're really rewarded for pushing buttons in time with the beat. So most of the stages on hard mode, I got S's after only getting A's in normal. So
Okay. Yeah, you
I
definitely
chose to
got
go
in on that
back and do a
combat.
stage on hard the second time I did it. And if I had to go back again, I was like, I'm not going to very hard or I don't remember. I think the last one was like Maniac or something. I don't recall.
Yeah.
There's 5 difficulty levels. I was not going beyond 3. I went like if I had to go back again, I went to easy because I just wanted to barrel through and find the thing. But
Yeah,
there's
that's what
there's
I
even
do. I went
jam
straight to
combos.
easy. Yeah, I went straight to easy because just I was playing this mostly for the experience, the graphics, the music. I like rhythm games, right? Like Crypt of the Necrodancer
Mm,
is fun for me and all that stuff, and Cadence of Hyrule as a blast. But at the same time, I get really, really frustrated when I can't nail those combos, and it penalizes you for it. So I kind of just didn't want to deal with that.
yeah.
It's on the Steam Deck. I'm just gonna play it on easy and go for the ride.
And I learned a lesson about my Steam Deck playing through this game is I tried to play with my Bluetooth headphones. And apparently,
Oh,
Bluetooth headphones and the Steam Deck don't get along so well. There's a pretty heavy delay on the audio. So, and like, there's
yeah.
apparently people have figured out ways to tweak it. And I tried that. And then when I didn't want to play with the headphones, I was having to mess with the audio settings to have audio come out of the Steam Deck speakers. So I said, screw it. And I figured out how to put the audio back. And I'm using corded headphones if I play something that's.
Yeah, and that's to be fair, that's not just a Steam Deck thing. That's just that's a Bluetooth thing, right? The difference between like one Bluetooth headset versus another, the lag can be night or day, and that's like that with Bluetooth anything, right? Like the controllers is a big thing for me. The difference between one Bluetooth controller from 8BitDo versus another one, some are like 20 milliseconds, some of them are up to like 70. It's crazy. Audio is definitely a bigger lag, so I see why it is what it is. So definitely wired headphones or play it on a TV. Most of my gameplay was playing it docked on the TV. That was the best way to go.
Yeah, I played the entire game on my Steam Deck, and it looked beautiful, played great. Like I said, the only issue was using Bluetooth headphones. But once I started using wired headphones, it wasn't a problem. Because I will say, a warning for people: combat. For me, I didn't mind it because I knew it was going on. But having the sound up with my wife in the room, not seeing it, she just felt like it was an attack on her senses.
Yeah, the screen
So
can get
that's why I
quite a
tried to
bit
do the
busy.
headphones.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, the audio, she wasn't even seeing the screen. She was just hearing the game, and she was like, "What is
Oh,
that noise? That is
well, that's true
awful."
because his weapon is, I mean, it's not actually a guitar, but it's definitely shaped like a guitar, and it
Yeah,
makes like you're whacking a guitar sound, right? That the bangs and
yeah.
the notes. I can see that being distracting. Yeah,
So there's the banging of the guitar sound, there's the smashing into things, there's the enemy shooting or attacking, there's you
yeah,
parrying, there's all the talking. Peppermint, get over here. Got you, child. There's a lot happening.
yeah.
So it can be a lot if you have issue with a lot of sound at once. But other than that, I felt like the audio was great. And honestly, most stages only have what, maybe 8 to 10 combats, and then it's a lot of
Yeah,
platforming and exploration.
it's not a terribly long game. I think Time to Beat says 8 hours, if I'm not wrong. How long did it take you to beat this one?
It took me quite a while. I would say probably about 12 hours. And then
Okay.
going back and doing the extra stuff, probably another 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah. You're definitely right. It's not combat heavy. I mean, it's a focus, but it's kind of a mix of quick time events and then kind of like an exploration platforming to a degree, and then there's the battles. They kind of mix it up quite frequently, even to the point where sometimes you're exploring a 3D environment, other times they kind of make it 2D, where it's like a 2D
Yeah.
platformer in certain spots, which is kind of interesting. They definitely take liberties with the format of the movement and the perspective of how you're moving around the world. It's kind of interesting. They try a bunch of different things. I guess they experiment a lot in this game, which is nice to see.
Yeah. But I mean, they did a lot of great stuff. But gosh, I don't even know what I was going to say now. Um, Oh, mixing up the gameplay a bit. Like I said, the stages, it's not all just run free and combat. Like when you're in
Right.
combat, you're in an arena that gets closed off. And then when combat's over, you're back to platforming or maybe avoiding lasers that are being shot at you or stuff like that. They mix it up a
Right.
lot. There's points where you're on a rail and you got to dodge things that are coming at you as you're sliding along the rail. There's segments where you're just being chased by a giant robot or lasers and you got to keep moving and not miss your
Yeah.
platforming. Sometimes you've got X amount of time to get through a circuit of area and you have to manage all the obstacles in the time frame. Otherwise, you
Right.
get sent back to the beginning. But anything you unlocked, like let's say you needed Peppermint to shoot something. If you did that your first time, she doesn't need to do it again. That saves you a little time and you can move faster. So
Right.
it's a pretty forgiving game. It's
So
not punishing for sure.
pretty much the only negative I have about this entire game, because I love everything about this game. This is a good game. The only negative is the platforming doesn't feel very great. The combat being a rhythm based, it's fine if it feels a little bit off and because it's very deliberate pacing. But I can't forgive the damn jump. Like it's not Mario. I mean, it's 2024 or 2023 when this came out. We've solved the idea of jumping in platforming games, right? The longer you hold the button down, the higher you're supposed to jump. Not in this game. You tap the button, you hold the button, you're jumping in the air like a freaking superhero, and it was off-putting enough that it kind of messed me up when I was doing the platforming sections, and I didn't quite like it. The controls felt a little bit off because of the jumps. I don't know if you felt that way or not.
I did not like that. That kind of tied into the whole idea of the beat of the music. Because if you jump at the top of his arc, if you hit jump again, it's in time with the beat.
The double jump.
So
Yeah.
there's all that. And then, at the top of that arc will again be the beat. And then you can dash. And that's in
Right.
time with the beat. So the whole game is really designed about being around the beat of the music, which I'm completely okay with. It was a little jarring in the first stage, but by the end of the game, I like every single maneuver I made, I was like jump, jump, dash, or jump, dash, jump. It was
Right.
always with the beat if I could get it.
Right.
And
Yeah, it's when you go against the grain of the music that it kind of messes you up. Like even something as
yes,
simple as you're
very
exploring
much.
a room and you want to break some crates. I like jumping in the air and smashing down with a heavy attack to break a bunch of crates. But just hitting that jump, you go way up in the air and then you attack. You can't just do a little bunny hop and then smash. Like I'm used to doing that in other games, and I kind of wish I could do that here. But you're right. It's the style of the game. It's definitely at its core a rhythm game, and everything ties into that mechanic.
Right. But again, it's not the rhythm game like you think. It's just everything is really built around the beat of the music, but it is at its core an action platformer.
Right.
Calling it a rhythm game is almost misleading to a degree because
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's not Just Dance, it's not Rock Band, it's not Guitar Hero. It is just everything is in time with the beat of the music. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And so you're rewarded for doing things in time with the beat of the music. You don't have to, but you're going to have a much easier time and probably a better experience if you can.
Yeah.
And it's not only that, but then the whole game, the flow of the stages, like we were talking about before, some of it's combat, some of it's platforming, some of it's other stuff. And then they just throw in cutscenes and completely voice acted plot points in the middle of the
Yeah.
stage. Like you've got a stage that's probably going to take you 45 to 60 minutes to beat. And it's going to be all over the place as to what that stage offers, which is great.
Right. Hmm.
Like you're
Yeah.
not going to get sick of doing one thing in any given level.
Yeah, there's a term for what they do in this game where it's constantly something new, right? Like you're never standing still, you're never wondering where you're supposed to go, or you're never getting lost, and you never feel bored. It's a constant go go go. There's beats, pun intended, I guess. There's always beats of how you're
Yeah.
going through the game, and I kind of
You're
dig what
only
they've done.
wondering you're only wondering where you're supposed to go if you're looking for all the secrets and the hidden objects. And some of
Right.
them they're really well hidden and some of them are hidden in plain sight and then you'll go back and you'll be like, "How the hell did I miss that?"
Yeah. So I guess I didn't play too deep. I wasn't interacting with the environment too much. I wasn't in the mindset of, oh, I better explore for secrets everywhere. I know that there's the currency in the game that you can pick up, and sometimes they hide the better gears in out of the way spots. But I didn't think I was missing secret doors or anything. But I guess that's a thing in the game. There's secret doors you can unlock.
Yeah, there's sort of like hidden pathways and not hidden like you go up to the wall and smack it and now there's an open space. Most of the time if it's a hidden path, it's literally hidden by like it's up and out of the way on top of a shelf that you maybe wouldn't think to look at, or it's
Right.
in the ceiling,
Okay.
or you're coming up a path and you see the route continue straight ahead, but you turn around behind you and there was something above where you came from. You didn't even notice it. It's a lot of stuff like that. There's
Right.
also areas that, as you're going through the game, you'll unlock companions who will join your adventure. Um, let's say like you get Peppermint on the first stage. So anything she can do, you can do from pretty much the get go. Macaron, you don't get until like stage 4, or like 3 or 4. So you can't go back and do earlier stages at that point. So there is stuff he can interact with in the Fierce 3 stages that you can't just
Right.
go back and get right away. Has to be after you beat the game. Same with the next character. They have stuff that they could interact with for all like 7 stages before you got them. And
Okay.
so again, you got to go back after you beat it to unlock all those pathways. But there's also just a lot of stuff that's just easily missable and just kind of decently hidden because you wouldn't think to look there.
So I'm skimming ahead in the video. I know that one of the neat things I found was that there's cosmetic items you can get in the game, like different shirts and t-shirts. I think you can get a crown for the cat I saw in one video, different outfits.
Yeah, if you buy everything, you can get the princess crown for the cat.
Okay.
If you, what was it? I think I went back and I think it was buying all the regular attacks or something, unlocked the punk rock outfit for the cat. So I have that on the cat. Um,
Okay.
I went and
It's
bought a whole
neat,
bunch
yeah.
of silly stuff, and it's also kind of cool because there's full outfits you can buy for Chai, and you'll see the full outfit. The full outfit probably costs you like 15,000 gears per outfit. Well, all of them except for one are not treated as an outfit. They are an outfit that you buy, but then you have to equip each part of it individually. So it's not like when you buy a full outfit, you're stuck with the full outfit. If you see something from that outfit you like, it'll be equipable with everything else in the game.
So if you don't like the hat, you don't have to wear the hat. You can put something else on.
Right. There's
Yeah.
literally just one outfit that he is stuck having to equip the entire thing, and that's because it's a bodysuit.
Okay. Yeah, the cosmetic stuff is neat because especially for a game like this where as cool as the cutscenes are, they're all in engine, right? This engine runs the cutscenes the same engine that when you're doing the gameplay, so it all ties together.
Mhm.
I think the only spot the costumes don't show up in is the pop-up portraits for the dialogue. I think it doesn't show up there, but all the major cutscenes have you wearing the outfit, which is kind of neat. It's a neat style.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I think you're right about the cutscenes, like how you see their faces popping up in the video there
Yeah.
during gameplay. I think that's always the face they use. That doesn't get updated, but yeah, in the cutscenes, and it's funny because when you play back through the first stage, you know, my Chai had green hair after I customized him, and in the opening, you know, he's just in like this, you know, a medical gown,
Right.
and he's just got his brown hair again. And I was like, well, that's weird. And then once you collect all your stuff and put your clothes back on, now he's got his green hair. I was like, all right. But
That makes sense. Yeah.
but as soon as you get past that first part in that stage, then yeah, he's running around in all the gear you equipped him with.
Yeah.
And I think 808, the moment you come across 808, they look however you've dressed them, and same with the other characters in engine, like during gameplay.
Right.
And there are some DLCs that you can buy to add new costumes and stuff. It's totally not necessary. There's so many options
Yeah.
for costumes in this game. You don't even need to worry about that.
I didn't even think to look for DLC for this game. It doesn't surprise me that it's there, considering the parent company that owns this game, the studio. But yeah, it didn't feel like there was anything lacking that was already in the game. There was quite a bit more in the game, cosmetic wise, than I think I expected. My only issue with it was I kind of wish you got it right from the get go. In a way, I kind of wish I could customize the characters and how they look right from the beginning. But
Yeah,
I get why it's not that way.
The only thing you can customize early on is just his t-shirt. You can just change his t-shirt, and you got like 8 options or something. And that was kind of disappointing to just see that as I played through the game. Just I could change his t-shirt now and then. And then at the end, all of a sudden, it's like, here's all these things you can do. And I was like, oh, I would have liked to have that during my first playthrough, but I guess maybe they didn't want it to sort of detract from the gameplay or something. I don't know, but
maybe because this is a game where I'm going to beat it because I know it's not very long. So there's no reason for me not to because I do like it, but it's not a game I think I'd want to play again. I don't think I'd ever want to play it a second time. Like, not that it's bad. I think it's one of those, it's a one and done type of thing, which is why I thought it was great for Game Pass as in terms of value. Cause I think there's definitely value in playing it once, but I don't see repeated gameplay or replay value. Like I think you mentioned there's an unlockable modes. I think a rhythm mode later on. I think you can play or an
There's
arcade
a
mode.
yeah, it's called the Tower,
Okay.
and you can. I never actually played it because I was so just trying to find all the stuff, but it's sort of an arcadey mode where you find upgrades as you play through, and you have a
Okay.
loadout you can pick from the get go. And so if you clear X amount, you unlock one reward. If you clear the whole thing, you unlock the full reward, like another reward. And one of those rewards, because you get to see what the rewards are. They're not just hidden away. Like, no, you don't get to know what it is. You get to see what it is. Like, if it's a
Right.
monetary reward for accomplishing something in the game, they show you that it's going to be the gears or whatever. If it's a costume, you'll see what the costume is. And one of them is like, he looks like he's just a sketch. He's just white with line
Okay.
drawing around him.
That's neat. Yeah.
And
Okay.
I would love to get that, but I just, after 28 hours with the game, I'm like, I am ready to move on to my next game.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like I'm glad it's there, but I wish it was something that you got earlier. I'm with you. Like that's
But
interesting.
at the same time, like, I'm not disappointed that I put 28 hours into the game and went and found all the
Right.
stuff that I did. I got my enjoyment out of it by going back and finding all the goodies in the levels and doing the extra content that was plot related. Other than that, I didn't bother with the tower mode because I was just like, I don't really care.
Yeah, for me, this is not a game that I like because of the gameplay. Like the gameplay's fine, it's good, but it's for me, it's just the story and the animation and the music. That's why I wanted to play this game.
Yes,
The gameplay is
very much.
secondary. Yeah,
The gameplay is decent. It doesn't super stand out in my mind. It's everything around the gameplay that makes it a standout entry. Uh, just a release title, whatever.
yeah.
It is really good in that regard. So
I had actually
if
tweeted it the other day. So, there's some internet discourse, shocker, but some folks are complaining that the new Dragon Age game coming out later this year has a bunch of difficulty sliders and combat modifiers to the point where you can make it as no deaths combat if that's what you want to do. And I don't understand why people are upset by this kind of stuff in this year, in this decade, at this point. Like, is anybody really playing games like Dragon Age for the gameplay? I'm sure there are some, yeah. But for me, that series and Mass Effect 2, it was the gameplay was always not why I liked those games. It was always the story, the experience, and the atmosphere. So it was always weird to me that people get upset with that difficulty stuff. It's just bizarre. But yeah,
yeah,
this
that
is a
kind of
game
goes
about the
back to
experience. Yeah.
the gatekeeping episode we just did with regards to Elden Ring. But yeah, and there was even another thing, like there was controversy this last week because I don't remember her name, but there's a Twitch streamer or just streamer, I'm not entirely certain. She was talking about accessibility in games and disabilities, and there was a term for a disability that's just for a short amount of time, and I can't remember the word for it.
Oh, that was
But
Alana Pierce's comment. Yeah, people took her out of
that's her
context,
name,
dude. Yeah,
Alana Pierce. No, no,
she's a influencer, but she works for Sony, I think now. But yeah, she basically wanted to add pausing should be an Elden Ring. Like,
I agree.
why is that?
The sentiment
Yeah,
behind her message was there,
yeah,
but the way she was describing having a kid as a disability, even like a temporary disability or
yeah,
whatever the term was, I was like, holding a child, yes, that is whatever it is, but having the child's existence is not that disability. Like, that's where she was not making it clear what she was trying to
yeah.
say. Like,
Well,
if
if
your
you,
kid is on his way to stick a fork in an outlet, the fact that the kid exists is not a temporary disability. And I know that's
yeah,
not the term. Just bear with me here. It's the it's if you're holding the child and trying to play a game at the same time. Okay, yeah, I get it.
yeah.
But the
If you watch
child's
the full,
existence is not that.
if you watch the full video, it's fine. She explained. I understand what
No,
she was getting at, and it was fine. But people were cherry picking that one quote, and it was stupid. Because yeah, like never would I say my kids are a disability or a hindrance,
yeah,
right?
no.
Like I mean,
The
I'm playing
the
Elden Ring, and my wife
message.
walks in, and I'm in a cutscene, and she's like, "I need you for a minute." I'm like, give me 3 seconds. I can't pause." I wish I could pause.
Yeah,
But it's not a
and
disability. Yeah,
yeah, and it's her message was great. I'm completely on board with that. It was just the wording that was bad in that
Yeah.
regard, you
But
know.
yeah, leave it to the internet to
So
jump on somebody for nothing. Like it was very overblown. I
it
think the
really
way
was.
people were jumping on her because I actually like her on YouTube. She's been fantastic in everything I've seen her do. But yeah, that was the internet is stupid. It's just the internet is dumb. They jump all over things like this, and it drives me nuts. Like this is number one. When we say games are art, right? And there's been that struggle to have games considered art for many years. We're at the point now where we have games like Hi-Fi Rush where they're clearly an art form. Just the animation alone is such
Yeah.
high caliber, tied with the music, the design of the stages with the music. Like you can't not call a game like Hi-Fi Rush art. And just yes, the gameplay is important to a game, sure, but it's not. It doesn't have to be the focus of a game to me. I think there's other things you can enjoy with games, and that's what this is for
Yeah.
me.
And to me, Hi-Fi Rush really is you're playing a cartoon.
Right.
And
Yes.
it's like it very much feels like you are playing a cartoon. You're running around with this guy just bashing things up with this weird guitar thing made out of trash.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally
And
it's a trash pickup poker thing, right? It's a trash fork that you use, and it's
yeah,
magnetized.
his arm is designed for waste collection.
It's just a weird concept of a character, man. But I dig it. It's cool.
But yeah, this game had so much charm and charisma. The story is a lot of fun. And yeah, if you look at reviews, you'll find that odd person who's like, the story is nothing great. Okay, if you don't like having fun and enjoying yourself, sure.
Well, it's very much like a lighthearted anime story, a cartoon story. Like
It is.
this, I'm not kidding when I say this. This literally could have been a Netflix miniseries, 6-episode story, and people would have eaten it up.
Yeah.
What's that? Edge Runners cyberpunk thing. That's what it feels like to me. Something like that, where it was like action packed cartoon, fun story, fun characters, and that's what this could have easily have been. And
Like I
don't
said,
know.
I keep likening it to Furikuri, and that was like a
Right.
4-episode anime. So
Right.
or maybe 6. I don't remember. It was really short. But either way,
Yeah.
like it would have if this were an anime, it would not have been 12 hours. It probably would have been like 3 or 4.
Right. Yeah.
But it's a
Actually,
lot
if
of
I'm not,
fun.
yeah.
And just honestly, like even just the banter as you're playing through the game and the characters arguing with each other or their growth as characters and people, like it's all there. They really nailed the storytelling aspect of this game.
Yeah. I love how the cat, when the cat transforms into an orb, like basically when a character, like one of your friends is speaking to you through the cat, the lights on the cat are different colors per the characters. I thought that was really cool touch, like really detail oriented. The banter is really great. Like I finished Final Fantasy VII remake earlier this year, and one of the things I hated was the freaking party banter. I did not have that problem with Hi-Fi Rush. The Hi-Fi Rush party banter was entertaining. It was fun. It didn't feel annoying. It didn't drive me nuts. There's no Barrett situation. I liked all the characters in this. I also really love the bad guys. There was a scene early on where you meet the bad guys, the corporate goons, and it's like a Zoom call, and the one guy's making gesturing, talking, and then and you can't hear his voice, and then the other lady's like, "So and so, you're on mute, darling."
Yeah,
got unmute. Like that kind of gag is funny to me, and it's just they captured it really well.
Yeah, and you see him like while he's muted, he's like going off, and he's like super
gesturing.
animated and frustrated and pissed, and they're like, "You're on mute," and then he comes back and he looks all like so annoyed about it, and so he's much more mellow about what he has to say.
Yeah.
Like they really did a good job, and the plot reveals. I thought I had nailed what the plot reveal would be for the main characters, for the Peppermint.
Right.
I was not quite there. I was close, but not quite there.
I won't spoil it, but yes, when I saw her and some of the bad guys, I'm like, I thought I could tie it in together. Like it seemed pretty obvious, but then it was definitely a different relationship than I thought it was, and it was good.
Yeah,
I thought it ended pretty good.
And then let's talk about the extra content that's plot related. It's funny because the reward you get is very on brand for this game. It was also not the most rewarding ending cutscene in the world.
Okay. So not worth the extra dozen hours of gameplay.
If you enjoy the challenge, it is. If you don't, just look up that video on YouTube. If you enjoy
Right.
the game's brand of humor and storytelling, it's 100% fits with the game's storytelling.
Okay.
But oh my gosh, I was like, that was it? That was what we got? That's how we resolved this? Okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is one of those things where you look at a game like this, brand new IP, it's great. I would love to see more of this, and in a better world, I would have looked forward to a Hi-Fi Rush 2, right? Where just to see what they do with the characters and the story.
It's theorized that they were working on a second Hi-Fi Rush because Tango was working on 2 games when it closed. They were just never revealed what they were. So it's theorized that one of them was Hi-Fi Rush 2, and one of them I think was Ghostwire 2. I think that was the prevailing idea. But
because for Tango, I know. So the founder Shimikami, he had left the previous year, the studio. He kind of took a back seat. He kind of just wanted to create a space for younger game developers to kind of have a space to make games, is my impression. But he did leave the studio earlier before this released, I think, or close to it. And then the lady who was behind, I can't remember her name. I remember her at the Game Awards though. She's very fun personality. Akumi, I think her name is. But she's the one who did Ghostwire Tokyo, and she also left last year before the studio shut down. So they had a few notable people leaving the studio last year, which that had to be a factor. But the guy who was helming Hi-Fi Rush, Johannesson, I think his last name is, he was with them right to the end. Yeah. And this was definitely his baby from what I understand.
Yeah, I would love to see what he does next, because this game is out there but not.
Right.
It's out there in all the ways you would want a game to be without feeling alien or foreign or, unplayable.
Like, we had a real bad run where all the big game studios were doing rehashes of the same games, right? They had a formula. Ubisoft, I can't stand Ubisoft for this, but every time they get something that works, they just reiterate it again and again and hammer it home. Like, as much as I want to like Assassin's Creed's, Valhalla or whatever, it's the same damn thing again and again. They just hammer home the same things until you're sick of it. There's not enough risk-taking in games. It's gotten better recently, but this is a game where they've taken risks, they've experimented, not just visually, but also gameplay-wise, and I love it for that, right? That's why I'm always willing to, like, pay for a game that at least tried something different, because not enough games are different these days, right? There's too much of the same crap.
This is a game that I would love to see get licensed out as an animated series.
For sure.
And we get to see the world explored more like that, because I don't think we're ever going to see another Hi-Fi Rush game. And I don't think many people are going to play this one. The studio closed. People don't want to support things like that, which is unfortunate, because, the game is fun. But at the same time, I'm not going to try and guilt people. Oh, you should have bought this, because I bought it in Humble Bundle last month after the studio closed. So I'm,
I played on Game Pass when it first came out.
Reason they...
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually,
right.
Is it still on Game Pass, or did they take it off? I think I thought it was still. They took it off, which is stupid, because they own the IP. But it's on sale for $20 Canadian, I think, right now on Steam. Totally worth the money. And this is a game that Microsoft will put on discount throughout the next 5 years, and they're going to keep coming back and say, "Look how good Hi-Fi Rush is." Sure, wish we had more of these.
Right?
Award-winning games
right now. As of this moment, because the Steam sale and all the summer sales, I think it's 18 on Steam, it's 18 on PlayStation, it's 18 on Xbox. Like, it's $20. So if it sounds like it's up your alley and you got $20 to throw at a game and you got nothing else going on, play it, please.
It's a struggle
it's worth it.
It's a struggle for gaming over the next few years, because they have the industry is basically bumping up the price of games. Like, full AAA games, whatever the hell that means, are now going to be $70 US. And that's a bump, whether you like it or not. You can argue, how long games have stayed the same price for so long, but $70 is still a hit to the wallet. There's definitely room for games that are not full price. And this is a perfect example. Like, this game was totally worth $30, $40 US. It's a dozen hours secrets, cosmetics, all in the game. I mean, it's a tight
Yeah, if you
package,
want to
which I
do
appreciate.
everything in this game, you're probably going to be spending about 40 hours.
Yeah, which is great for the price point that it came out at, for sure.
Yeah.
And like, you want more of these. Like, I want more games like this. I don't want every game I buy being $70. I just can't afford that.
Yeah. And then, like, there's something to be said for unique games that still cater to the single player experience too, because that's something that's going away as well. Like, you see single player games where, not to shit on Elden Ring, but yeah, I just learned that you couldn't pause the game, and I was like, it's a single player game. What the hell? So, you got that, or you got the games that, you have to connect to servers or whatever to play a single player game, stuff like that. It's frustrating.
Like, I
And you see
saw
single player games kind of going away. What Crazy Taxi
it's gonna
is
be an MMO.
being, yeah, what
what the fuck is
as
that?
an arcade racer basically, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, MMO.
Yeah.
No.
Join the
What, so now
Crazy
you're just
Taxi
gonna be
community. Like, I don't want to. I just
like,
want to
I'm
play my
excited
game.
about Crazy Taxi. I'm excited
Yeah.
for a new jet set. I'm not excited for shoehorning in aspects of the current gaming market that I can't stand into an IP I love. That's why I didn't buy Chocobo GP, because they ruined it. I was so excited for it until microtransactions. I was like, nope, I'm out.
It's stupid. Like, I saw The Witcher. The current rumor is that they're adding a multiplayer mode to The Witcher, the game that's coming out. Why? I don't. Witcher 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. And at no point did I think to myself, gee, I wish I could play online with people. Like, never. I don't want to play online multiplayer with Witcher. Just give me the damn story. Like Mass Effect did that, right? Mass Effect 3 had multiplayer, and it was not bad, I'm sure. Dragon Age Inquisition had multiplayer. It was fine. But that's not why I play these games. Give me a single player story. Like, I don't give a crap about online.
But I mean, this game, Metacritic, OpenCritic, it's got 90s. So definitely worth a look at if you've not thought about it before. And if it looks even remotely up your alley, give it a shot. It is a fun one. I've been recommending it to friends and family, and I think my brother likely picked it up after I talked to him about it, because he was like, I've seen that. It looks fun. As soon as I said Footy Cootie, he was like, I guess I'll go buy it.
Is he?
I haven't spoken to him after that, but
he's into music too heavily, isn't he? Isn't he like doesn't he play instruments? No?
He plays the guitar.
Okay. Yeah. Because I feel like if you're into music in any degree, then this is definitely something that would push some buttons for a person.
Yeah. It's a good one. Like, if you appreciate games as art, this is one of them.
Yeah. It's just, and like I said, critically acclaimed. I know the games industry is hurting right now. Like a lot of tech companies, there's lots of layoffs, a lot of closures, but I just look at, I mean, it wasn't just this, but I think it was Roller Dome from 505. Also won awards last year. Small studio. I think this is one of the few games they made. Award-winning, critically acclaimed. People were loving it. A lot of hype for it. And then they got shut down. Like, when studios that make award-winning games, like Hi-Fi Rush, when they're getting shut down, what does that say about the industry right now? It just sucks. It can't all be Ubisoft. It can't all be EA. It can't be all the same crap in franchises. We need new IPs like this to kind of get in there. And it's really frustrating. Like, this is a, and it's not even a small studio. Like, Tango is a subsidiary of BAFTA. Like, I mean, they're it's not an indie game. I think that was the complaint some people might have had with this one, is they thought it was an indie game at first. It's not. It's a AAA studio.
It's a AA game.
Yeah, experimenting in a smaller team and a smaller, game. Yeah, but this should not have been shut down. Then this should have a sequel. Like, it deserves a sequel. It's that good. It needs a sequel.
Yeah, this is one of those unfortunate things where it's like, Microsoft and Bethesda had the money to keep this studio alive for one or two more games to see if they could turn it around, make something of the IP. Because, I mean, while Hi-Fi Rush may not have nailed sales quotas, a Hi-Fi Rush 2 probably would have been a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to tell when Game Pass is a factor with these releases, right? You never know how well they could have done if they weren't on Game Pass. especially for the price
Yeah.
point it was being sold at.
I mean, it seems like Tunic did well, but Tunic also had a following, right? I think more people knew of Tunic than Hi-Fi Rush, which is wild considering
Yeah.
Tunic was is like a handful of people and
One guy.
one
One
guy.
guy
Okay, so
and
Tunic
a
is one
QA team.
guy,
Yeah.
and Hi-Fi Rush had 1,400 credits.
Yeah.
So, I mean, 2/3 of them were Bethesda ZeniMax and not Tango. But even
Right.
still, like, you're looking at 450 people at Tango.
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously not as cheap, but when you're throwing that much money at a game, maybe market it a little bit.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I understand they were trying to, maybe not get fans overhyped for something, I guess. But I know that they had a pedigree as being survival horror specialists. I get it, but this is something that could have been deserving of an ad or some more eyeballs, because it really is quite good. And like I said, risk taking, experimental, interesting stuff that you don't see other companies doing, and it's just wild. It's really, I am really frustrated when games that win awards, games that are good, and the studio still gets canceled. It's just overly frustrating. Out of everything that's happened in terms of tech layoffs lately, the closing of Tango bothers me, I think, the most. Like, and I'm not even a survival horror guy. I don't really care about Evil Within. I'm sure it's great, but the fact that they shut down a studio that made this is really frustrating to me, because, yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like, it's a bummer to see a game that takes a risk and the studio gets shut down instead of surviving it, you know?
Yeah.
It's it's really just disheartening, because then
Yeah.
it tells the publishers, "Oh yeah, let's just keep pumping out Call of Duty. Let's pump out more of the same because that's what people will buy."
Yeah. Like, even like when you look at the company, freaking the guys who make Skyrim and Fallout, and they bring out Starfield, a game that was 15 years in the making, it feels like. And you know what? Not that great. I mean, yes, they took some different changes with the story. It's a sci-fi Skyrim, but man, is that game really one of those games in terms of just the systems that are within it, the combat, the maps. Like, it just feels just like another Skyrim, and they barely did much to it. Like, it just feels like they haven't took any risks. And that's weird, because it's it's an Elder Scrolls in space to a degree. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I could probably gush about this game more, but I don't want to spoil it in case anybody wants
Right.
to play. So I will leave it at that. But the characters are a lot of fun. It's a silly, just it really does ride the line well between sense of humor and drama and making you feel things as you play through. Like, it does a
Yeah.
good job of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely one of those games where you have to play it. Like, when it's on Steam sale for $20, it's hard to say no. I'm sure it'll go even more of a discount in the years to come. It's definitely one,
Yeah.
if you see it for $5, there's no reason not to play this one. It's not lengthy. It's not long. It's got killer soundtrack. It's fun. It's all around worth playing. It's a shame that we're not going to get a sequel. But like you said earlier, it's the main lead on this, Johannes. He's definitely a guy to follow on Twitter and to watch what he does next. Whether he opens a new studio, a smaller team, or if he does indie stuff on the side, whatever he does will probably be definitely be interesting, because he was definitely invested in how he made this game, and his team has definitely got some chops that you don't see in other studios for sure.
Yeah. For me, it's usually about the project more than the team, but there are a handful of people out there that are worth following, and he is one to follow for now, I think.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I think we've talked about this game for a little over an hour now, and we managed to not spoil the story, so woohoo.
Yeah.
I think we
Well, I mean,
can wrap it up.
that's
I
the
think
focus
we've
of this
done this
game.
game. I think we've done this game justice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Like, the story to me is an essential part of this game, and I don't want to dive too much into it. Like, just with the focus of the ending comment of the story is what makes this game. It's the experience, the journey of it is so good. The characters are fun. Yeah, it's got to play it.
Yeah. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Check us out on Discord. Find us at pressb2cancel.com or pressb.org for the time being,
Thanks.
at the
Thank
very
you.
least. Come talk to us about this game on Discord or wherever you might find us. Leave comments here in the video on YouTube or wherever. Let us know what you thought of this game if you enjoyed it or if you intend to play it. Like, curious to see what people think about this because this was one that really flew under the radar for me, even though I knew what it was before it came out. Well, I knew about it before it came out, but it wasn't enough. And I think that was the case with a lot of people. So tell us how you feel about it. And with that, I think we are good to close this off. What do you think?
No, I'm with you 100%. If you are listening to this audio episode, please do drop us a review. Reviews are free and they help the show out. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, yeah, please drop that follow. We're trying to grow up our base on YouTube as well. But this has been a great episode for a great game.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.